Okay, everybody, we're back again with another edition of Felons Talk. Everybody kind of enjoyed the episode that we did with John regarding, solitary confinement and the effects that it has on you. Um, and John hasn't called in a couple of days. I don't know what's going on because normally he calls me every day around this time. And he hasn't called in 2 days, so I don't know what's happening. But here's the thing I'm going to talk about today is a place called Marianna, Florida. Marianna, Florida was and still is a federal correctional institution, medium security in the in the Florida Panhandle. Um, what I did like 18 years in max, in high security prisons like Leavenworth, Marion, Lewisburg, and Atlanta before I ever saw the inside of a medium security prison, which was Marianna. And it was ridiculous. I was like, I couldn't believe it. It was like I was walking into a different environment. It was relaxed. Everybody was kind of kicked back. And it was amazing, really. But I only lasted a year because I started making and selling hooch. And they didn't like that because these rednecks would get drunk and they'd want to fight, And they don't too much care if you're drunk. But when you're drunk and you start fights, they got a problem because they don't want any violence. And these rednecks didn't know how to hold their liquor. So they got me run the fuck up out of there. Anyway, Marianna had all the 90s, all the 80s cocaine people from South Florida, all the distributors and the sellers, the importers of. It was crazy. There was ship captains, there was airplane pilots. My cell partner was Miguel Brito. Miguel sounded like he was from Havana, Cuba, but he actually grew up in Key West, Florida. Apparently, there are like some housing projects in Key West. Which I would have never known that. I thought it was like a destination for just a Florida destination. But there was. It was a housing project. He grew up and he became a fisherman. And eventually all the fishermen in Florida became smugglers because it was more money in it. He started out by going and smuggling marijuana, and he would tell stories. Okay, so like the ships would come out to the like the 5 mile point, and the ships that were loaded with marijuana would be way out there. The fishermen would get in their trawlers, and they would go out there and meet these big, huge, uh, freighters filled with marijuana. And here's how it went. So when they met the mothership was set low in the water, very low. It was loaded with bales and bales and bales of marijuana, right? As they offloaded the marijuana onto the trawlers, now the trawlers were sitting high up in the water, okay? And as they started to offload onto the trawlers went down. They started to go down into the water more. Their water line was a lot closer to the deck because of the weight. And the same thing happened with the mothership. The mothership would rise in the water. It floated all these bales of marijuana, right? But the thing of it is, they made millions, millions. Brito ended up buying a couple of more boats. He had his own, fishing fleet, and then he had I think he had in Santo Domingo or something. He had his own boatyard. He was able to afford all this. He's amazing. And I would hear him talking. Well, I mean, eventually he got into the cocaine. Okay, everybody did. It was there. They already had one foot in the door. You know what I mean, with the marijuana. So they went up the scale. And when the coke came, they said, "What? We're not going to stop now." You know what I mean? And he wasn't the only one, man. There were all these. There was a lot of small town redneck fishermen up and down the coast that did the same thing. You know. Most of these, here's what happens. Not burrito, not burrito, not that's burrito, not burrito. But he didn't cooperate. Um, he got 10 years. I think he pled guilty for that. He was involved in what became known as the Bubba conspiracy. Bubba is a word that people in Key West used when they addressed each other. Hey, Bubba, how you doing, Bubba? And apparently his son and some of the higher ups in the state government, in like the state prosecutor, for instance, and several other people were also involved in the smuggling operations that happened out of Key West. They call that the Bubba conspiracy. But what ended up happening was he he got arrested and all that. But there were many others. I can remember one conversation he had with one of his friends about. They was in a motel or a hotel in Fort Lauderdale, and the friend came in. He had a suitcase filled with $500,000, right? He was supposed to bring it to Brito, and he gets there, and the hotel clerk says, "No, Mr. Brito went out. He usually goes out every day at this time for lunch. He should be back in about 20, 30 minutes." So the guy said, "Well, I'll just wait in the lobby." And he sat down and put the suitcase next to him, and he fell asleep. Well, here comes Brito, wakes him up. "Paisan, what's going on?" "Hey, all right." So anyway, "Come on up to my room." And they go up, right, on the elevator. And where's the money? Money? "Oh, I left it in the lobby." "Oh my God." So they jump on the elevator, go back to the lobby. The suitcase is still there, $500,000. These are the kinds of stories I would hear day in and day out. Crazy, man. Oh my God. It really made my head spin. You know what I mean? There was a guy there, they called him King Air. Well, he wore a little hat that said King Air on it. King Air is a type of airplane, which is kind of an expensive one at that. King Air was from the peanut fields of Georgia. Very slow talking, like a guy who basically was from the South. He was one that had been recruited by the people who wanted to smuggle drugs. into the country. And, after a trip or two, he was able to afford this King Air, which is a mighty big airplane and holds a lot of cargo. King Air had grown up as a crop duster in the peanut fields of Georgia. He knew everything there was to know about an airplane, and he could fly under power lines and stuff like that, right? Very interesting guy. And he was like a yeah. But here's the thing about these. Here's what I learned about these pilots. Most of the pilots, when they get caught, they debrief because the government doesn't want the pilots. The pilots are just the people who pick up the drugs, bring them back, and give them to the people. As soon as he offloads that cocaine, they hand him a suitcase with the money. He was getting $1,000 a kilo. Okay, if he could fit 1,000 keys on that plane, he would get $1 million in a suitcase, right? Then he would tell me that he would go out to Las Vegas, take all his little redneck homies, and they would rent the chicken ranch out for a weekend. When I say rent it out, like just them. There was no other people in the were allowed to to enter. They had it exclusively for themselves. But generally speaking, when guys when pilots get caught, they rat on their the people that have hired them, because, like I say, the government wants those people. They don't really care about the pilots. The pilots aren't selling drugs. The pilots aren't. They're just like a middle person. Like they're not really that guilty of I guess you'd say. There was one dude. He took flying lessons. His wife died. He got some insurance money, and he bought a plane. Right? I guess he knew how to fly. And he went down there and tried to smuggle some cocaine. And when he got back to the United States, well, apparently they didn't give him the right fuel. When he got down there and he refueled, there was like water in the gasoline. They did some stupid shit. I don't know, but anyway, he ran out of. He was supposed to land in the Everglades, but he was getting close to. Having to fucking put the plane in the ocean. So he got on the microphone, and they let him land at Miami International Airport. Bad thing, Bo. He had a plane full of drugs, man. And of course, I think he only got 10 years too. I'm pretty sure he told on somebody as well. You know what I mean? He was a dumb fuck. And then there was this guy, they called him, what the hell was it? Anyway, Kenny the Wire. Kenny the Wire. Kenny the Wire had just made a big drug deal. He was from Paterson, New Jersey, believe it or not, my hometown. He was a teacher, but he got involved in the drug business, right? And he ended up doing a big drug deal and got caught, right? So the DEA told him, listen, we'll help you if you help us. He debriefed on the spot, right? They wired him up and they sent him to finish the deal. And when they finished the deal, they grabbed the other people, who happened to be his cousin, by the way. So, this this money, this drug money, turned a lot of people uh, into criminals. People wanted to be, you know, it was just too big of an influence. There was too much money to be made. So they went for it, and they they were able to, secure a good amount of money. That's why they called him Kenny the Wire, because he wired up on his cousin right after he got caught. There was another guy there who was from Nova Scotia, and him and his buddy, were big players in the game. Okay, they were moving multi kilos, right? And just one, group of guys. I think it was two or three of them. They had gotten in debt to this guy to the tune of maybe 200 grand, right? They offered his buddy 20 grand to kill his partner. That's how it goes, man. Why should I pay him 200,000 when I can give a tenth of that amount to this guy, and then I don't know nobody has any money anymore? He didn't do it. Let me put it that way. He didn't do it, but he may end up getting busted anyway. Let's see. Behind our prison, about 300 yards, I'd say, beyond the prison, was a small airport. And you could watch, planes land and take off. And here's the thing: when you there's a title. When you teach them how to fly, you most important thing is taking them up the air. Is leaving the airport and going up and landing. Takeoff and landing are the two most important parts of this. So, touch and go is what they do is they put you in a seat next to the instructor, and you take off and you fly around, and then you come down, you touch the runway for about maybe 100 yards, and then up you go again. Touch and go, touch and go. And you do that about 10 times, and that's one lesson. That's one lesson. Touch and go is important because you have to be able to take off and land an aircraft properly. That's the most important parts of. So anyway, we'd be sitting there on the bleachers watching them do touch and goes, and quite a few of the guys who were there would be discussing, what it was like for them, because a lot of them were pilots, They would talk about things, discuss stories, stuff. One day I'm sitting in the TV room and we're watching a show about, what crack has done to the American society and everything. And they're talking about like, how, how everybody became crackheads, and they showed this poor old crackhead begging for money, trying to get, enough money to buy one rock, right? And one of the guys in the room said, "You know what? I just throw him a kilo and let him kill himself." I mean, that's how much money and drugs these people had. Like a kilo meant nothing to them, right? And I mean, like when he said it, this wasn't some dude bragging about bullets. This was a man who had been there and done that. Oh man, there's so many instances of, one little guy saw a bunch of money sitting on a table, again in the TV room watching. He said that looks to be about $20,000. I said, how would you know? And I used to have money counters. I should have known, right? Money counters. He's used to using money counters to count money, so he can kind of look at a stack and tell you roughly, if they're hundreds or twenties, he can tell you roughly how much um, it was. And I learned also this: every bill, whether it's 100, a 1, or a 20, weighs 1 gram, right? It's possible to weigh money and know how much you have if it's all one denomination. Like if it's 20 pounds of $20 bills, you just do the math and you can guess within a hundred or so dollars of what it is. Um, there were so many instances, man, where I was just, listen, I was awed by some of the stories the guys would be. There were guys who there were Colombian guys who had, what do you call it? Immunity, uh, consulate immunity, right? When you have immunity from, I forget how it is. It's when you're immunity means you come and go from the country. All big people from foreign countries that are connected to their government have governmental immunity when they come into the United States. They don't go through the shakedowns and stuff that the normal people have to go through. But they figured out that these guys were smuggling drugs, and they took away that immunity, and they found them with drugs, and they arrested them. So we had, counselor people from Colombia there. We had ship captains from foreign countries, guys that were like, that had these big freighters, or maybe they didn't own them, but they were the captains of those big freighters that would come and deliver all these drugs to be offloaded into the United States. It was a pretty amazing, and it was a different type of inmate than I'm used to, you know. There wasn't nobody running around with a knife trying to kill anybody. Nobody was trying to be a super tough guy and make a name for himself or any of that crazy shit, you know. And it was a very easygoing and interesting place for a guy who had just finished doing 18 years in max. It was amazing. And anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and hopefully John will call back tomorrow or something. Maybe we can talk to him about some things. But I'll see you guys later. And this was another edition of Felons Talk. Please like, subscribe. Please, send, write comments, ask questions. And hopefully I'll see you again tomorrow.